the deep dive. Today, we are really getting into the nuts and bolts, the practical side of habit building.
Yeah, we're tackling chapters 11 through 14 of Atomic Habits.
And it's all about the third law. Make it easy. Well, it's opposite. Make it difficult.
Exactly. And this is perfect for you, the learner, if you're trying to absorb knowledge quickly, efficiently, but without getting totally bogged down.
Right. These chapters are just packed with strategies, really actionable stuff to make good habits, well, easier, and the bad ones harder to stick with.
So our mission today, break it all down, clear takeaways, maybe spark some of those aha moments for you.
Okay, let's dive right in. Chapter 11, walk slowly, but never backward. It starts with this really memorable story about a photography class. Kind of turns expectations upside down, doesn't it?
It really does. It's fascinating. So University of Florida, a professor splits his film photography class. Group 1, graded purely on quantity, just the sheer number of photos they turn in.
Okay, lots of photos.
Group 2, graded on quality. They just needed one single perfect photo.
And the results were surprising.
Completely. All the best photos, the highest quality work came from the quantity group.
Wow. Okay, that feels backwards. You'd think focusing on quality would, well, produce quality? What's going on there?
Well, it highlights this crucial difference the book talks about. Motion versus action.
Motion versus action. Explain that a bit.
Sure. So motion is like planning, strategizing, learning, outlining an article, researching workout plans. It feels like you're making progress.
Right, you feel busy, productive.
Exactly. But it doesn't actually produce a result on its own. Action, though, that's the behavior that gets you an outcome, like actually writing the article or doing the workout.
Okay, I think we all get stuck in motion sometimes. Why do we do that? Why plan endlessly instead of just, doing the thing?
Oh, well, motion is safer, isn't it? It feels like progress, like you said, but without the risk of failing or facing criticism if it's not perfect.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Planning is comfortable. Doing is vulnerable.
Precisely. And that ties into wanting to learn without feeling overwhelmed. Sometimes that deep dive into research or planning is just a way to put off actually starting.
Paralysis by analysis. We've all been there.
Yeah.
So how do we break out? What's the path forward?
The key takeaway here is that mastering a habit, it starts with repetition, not perfection.
Repetition, not perfection.
Yeah.
Like the photo students just clicking away.
Exactly. They were doing the thing, learning with each shot, experimenting, improving, because they were practicing. They were, as the book puts it, getting their reps in.
Getting your reps in. I like that framing. It's like practice, not performance.
Right. And this repetition literally rewires our brains. Habit formation is basically a behavior becoming more automatic the more we do it.
How does that work neurologically?
Well, every time you perform an action, the connections between the neurons involved get stronger. It's called long-term potentiation. You might have heard of Head's law. Neurons that fire together wire together.
Ah, okay. So doing it makes it easier to do again, like forging a path.
Exactly like that. The more you walk it, the clearer it gets. The book gives great examples, too. Musicians. Often a larger cerebellum for coordination. Mathematicians. More gray matter in certain areas.
And the London taxi driver's example, with the hippocampus for spatial memory.
Yes. And interestingly, it can shrink when they retire. Shows how use shapes the brain.
Incredible. So this repetition gets us across the habit line the book mentions.
That's the idea. Initially, a new habit takes conscious effort, right? It's hard work. But repeated enough, it crosses that line, becomes almost automatic, less effort required.
And it's the frequency, how often we do it, not just how long we've been trying.
Definitely. Frequency is king. Doing something small every day is way more powerful for building the habit than doing one big session once a week. Consistency wires it in.
Okay, so chapter 11's message. Prioritize action, get your reps in, focus on frequency. That makes perfect sense.
And it leads perfectly into chapter 12, the law of least effort. The title kind of gives it away, doesn't it?
Huh. It does sound pretty straightforward. Less effort is better.
Well, yes, but there's more nuance. It kicks off with this really cool observation from Jared Diamond about the shapes of continents.
Continents. How does geography link to my habit of, say, checking my phone too much?
It's about friction. Diamond noted Eurasia is mostly east-west, while the Americas and Africa are north-south.
Okay.
Agriculture spread way faster in Eurasia because the climate stays pretty similar along lines of latitude. Moving north-south means drastic climate changes, more difficulty, more friction.
Ah, friction. So the environment itself created more resistance to spreading crops in the Americas.
Exactly. And that large-scale example illustrates a fundamental principle. Our environment shapes our behavior by influencing the friction involved in an action.
Okay, so less friction means easier action. That makes sense.
And that's the core of the law of least effort. We naturally gravitate toward the option requiring the least work. It's not about being lazy necessarily.
More light,
Yeah.
efficient, energy conservation.
Precisely. Our brains are wired to save energy. Every action costs something. So the less energy an action requires, the more likely we are to do it. Think about scrolling social media or watching TV. Very low effort, very easy to fall into.
Right, those easy habits can eat up so much time, and they can get in the way of what we actually want to do.
That's a key point. Often the good habits we want to build feel harder. There's more friction between us and the outcome. So the goal is to reduce that friction. Make the good habits easy enough that you'll do them even when motivation is low.
But wait, people do hard things all the time. Run marathons, build businesses. Doesn't that contradict this?
Good question. It's not that we only do easy things, but it's about making the good, beneficial things as easy as possible, especially in the moment of decision. On tough days, when willpower is shaky, low friction makes it more likely your better self wins out.
Okay, so it's about stacking the deck in your favor. I remember an analogy, something about a garden hose.
Yes. Trying to power through with sheer motivation is like forcing water through a kinked hose. It takes massive effort. Reducing friction is like unkinking the hose. The desired action flows naturally.
Unkinked a hose. Got it. So how do we actually do that? How do we reduce friction?
Environment design is huge, like we touched on before. Choose locations for habits that fit your existing routine. Gym on the way home from work, less friction.
Makes sense. And at home.
Or the office. Reduce friction there too. Make the cues for good habits obvious and easy to act on. The book mentions Japanese lean production. They got super efficient by eliminating waste, adding by subtracting. We can do that with our habits.
Like laying out workout clothes the night before.
Exactly. Or prepping healthy snacks so they're grab and go. It's about making the good choice the path of least resistance.
You know, it also mentions how successful products do this. Meal delivery, ride sharing.
Oh, absolutely. They succeed because they drastically reduce the friction for getting something done, getting food, getting a ride. Even governments use it. Like putting a direct link on a tax form, small change, big increase in compliance because it was easier.
And then there's priming the environment for future use. What's that about?
It's about setting up your space for the next action, like resetting a room after you use it. Tidying your desk at the end of the day makes starting work tomorrow easier.
Ah, so it's future-proofing your habits. Little things like putting the book you want to read on your pillow.
Perfect example. Or putting your vitamins next to your toothbrush. Small primes that make the next step almost effortless.
And the flip side applies too.
Yeah.
Increase friction for bad habits.
Exactly. Make the unwanted behavior harder. Unplug the TV and put the remote somewhere inconvenient. Delete distracting apps from your phone's home screen. Log out of social media. Add steps, add effort.
Okay, so Chapter 12 is all about engineering your environment. Make good habits easy, bad habits hard. Super practical.
It really is. Which takes us nicely into Chapter 13, how to stop procrastinating by using the 2-minute rule. This sounds like a magic bullet.
Maybe not magic, but definitely clever. It starts with another great story about the choreographer Twyla Tharp.
Ah, yes, her daily ritual. What was it again?
Simply hailing a cab to go to the gym. That's it. That's the ritual.
It seems so small, almost insignificant.
Right. But that tiny action is the starting point. It kicks off the whole workout habit. It perfectly illustrates making it easy to start.
And the chapter points out, like 40–50% of our daily actions are habits anyway? And these habits, they kind of steer our later choices, like an entrance ramp onto a highway.
Yeah, once you start scrolling, it's hard to stop. Or you sit through a bad movie just because you started it.
Exactly. And these habits often get locked in during what the book calls decisive moments.
Decisive moments.
Yeah.
Like small choices with big impacts.
Precisely. Choosing takeout versus cooking, driving versus biking, starting homework versus playing a video game. These little forks in the road set the path for your future self.
And the habit is the entry point, not the whole journey.
Yeah.
Like Tharp's cab ride gets her to the gym. It's not the workout itself.
You got it. Which brings us to the rule itself.
The 2-minute rule. Tell us about it.
It's super simple. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do.
2 minutes. That's it.
That's it. So read before bed becomes read one page. Do yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. Study for class becomes open my notes.
Wow. Okay. Scale it way, way down.
Scale it right down. Make starting ridiculously easy. So easy you can't say no.
Why does that work so well? It feels almost too easy.
Because it overcomes that initial inertia, that resistance to starting. It creates what the book calls a gateway habit. Once you've taken out the yoga mat, well, you might as well do a few stretches, right? It gets you moving down the right path.
Like a tiny first domino.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The idea is to map your goals from very easy to very hard and find that initial 2-minute step. The goal right now isn't mastering the marathon, it's mastering putting on your running shoes.
Master the art of showing up.
That's the phrase. Standardize before you optimize. You can't improve a habit that doesn't even exist yet. Build the consistency first.
And those first 2 minutes, they can become a ritual, like a warm-up that signals it's time.
Absolutely. That tiny start can trigger focus. Think of a pre-performance routine for an athlete or a writer's ritual before they start typing. It eases you into the state you need to be in.
Okay, but what if it feels like a trick? Like I know I'm supposed to do more than 2 minutes.
The book addresses that. It actually suggests, at first, only doing the 2 minutes. Seriously. Go to the gym, stay for 5 minutes, then leave if you want.
Really? Just 5 minutes?
Yeah. There's a story about a reader who lost over 100 pounds starting that way. The point is to build the identity, to become the type of person who goes to the gym. Even a tiny action reinforces that. It's casting a vote for that identity.
Casting votes. I like that. So doing something is always better than nothing, even if it's less than planned.
Always. And once that habit of showing up is solid, then you scale it up. That's called habit shaping.
Habit shaping. So start with putting on running shoes, then walk for 2 minutes, then 5, then jog, building it up gradually.
Exactly. The chapter gives examples for becoming an early riser or vegan or starting exercise, all broken down into tiny progressive steps, starting with that 2-minute rule. The key is start small, nail the first 2 minutes, master showing up.
Powerful stuff. Okay, that leads us to the final chapter in this block, chapter 14. How to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. That title sounds ambitious.
It definitely is. It's about taking make it easy to the extreme. How can we basically guarantee good habits happen and make bad ones, well, impossible?
Okay, I'm intrigued. It starts with Victor Hugo again, right?
It does. The famous story of him locking away his clothes so he physically couldn't go outside and had to write The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Talk about making procrastination difficult. He literally made it impossible to leave.
Exactly. And that extreme example introduces the concept of commitment devices.
Commitment devices, what are those?
They're basically choices you make now to control your actions later. You lock in future behavior, making good habits easier or bad habits harder. Hugo's clothes stunt, a classic commitment device.
Okay, so what are some less drastic examples we could use?
Plenty. Buying food in single-serving packages instead of family size. Voluntarily banning yourself from online gambling sites. Athletes leaving their wallets at home so they can't buy junk food.
Okay. Like asking the waiter to box up half your meal before it even arrives at the table.
Perfect example. You're using your current good intention to bind your future self, who might be tempted to overeat. Near AL, using an outlet timer to kill his internet at 10 p.m. is another one.
So you're making it harder to break the good habit or easier to stick with it, like prepaying for a yoga class.
Exactly. The cost and hassle of canceling becomes a commitment device, or scheduling that important call, the social pressure helps you follow through. You're increasing the friction for not doing the good habit.
The goal being, make good habits inevitable and bad ones impossible. How else can we do that? Automation.
Automation is a huge part of it. The chapter tells the story of the invention of the cash register.
The cash register. How's that a habit thing?
It basically automated ethical behavior. It made it incredibly difficult for employees to steal from the till. It made honesty the path of least resistance, almost inevitable.
Wow. Okay, so automation locks in behavior.
Yes, and often through one-time decisions that pay off again and again, setting up automatic savings transfers, buying a water filter pitcher, getting blackout curtains for better sleep, choosing a healthier default meal delivery option.
One decision, ongoing benefits. Makes sense. And technology helps automate a lot now, right?
Massively. Automatic bill pay, prescription refills, website blockers like Freedom or Cold Turkey, automatic software updates. It frees up willpower and mental energy for other things. As Alfred North Whitehead said, civilization advances by increasing the number of things we can do without thinking.
Technology cuts both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It also makes bad habits super easy.
Oh, absolutely. That's the downside. Binge watching is easy because of autoplay.
Hmm.
Endless scrolling is easy because of infinite feeds. Technology can automate distraction just as easily as productivity.
Yeah, the author even mentions having his assistant change his social media passwords every week.
Right. A human commitment device to add friction back into something technology made too easy. It forced him to reconsider if he really needed to log in.
He found he adapted pretty quickly, didn't really miss it as much.
Exactly. Making the bad habit impossible, or at least very difficult, often reviews it wasn't as necessary as we thought. It frees us up for things that matter more.
So the big takeaway from chapter 14, use commitment devices, make smart one-time decisions, leverage technology wisely, all to design a system where good habits almost have to happen and bad habits just can't.
You nailed it. Create an environment where follow-through is practically guaranteed.
Wow. Okay, we've covered a lot there. From starting with just 2 minutes to redesigning our entire environment and even lucking ourselves into good behavior. The third law, make it easy, is incredibly practical.
It really shifts the focus, doesn't it? Away from just relying on heroic willpower towards smarter strategies and system design. Thinking about those tiny friction points or those decisive moments.
Absolutely. So for you listening, the learner, think about this. What really stood out was the 2-minute rule, the idea of environment design, commitment devices.
Yeah, what's one small change you could make right now or this week based on these ideas? Maybe make one good habit just a tiny bit easier, or add one small bit of friction to a habit you want to break.
Definitely something to chew on. This has been fantastic.
Agreed. And next time, we're moving on to the fourth and final law of behavior change. Make it satisfying. How rewards and immediate gratification play a huge role in making habits stick long term.
Ah, the payoff. Look forward to that. We'll see you then for another deep dive.